Hi friends, we're painting today. I'm streaming live on YouTube. I'm not streaming on Twitch today because we're moving into working on this figure as we have. Watching along, we refined the face and then we did the arms. Yesterday we did the shadow line and defined the table here. Today we're going to work on the breast, the rib cage, stomach, pelvis, the labia, and possibly the legs. So we're going to mix up some paint and get going. So I'm working in acrylics. I'm using Golden Brand Heavy Body acrylics, my brush is a little bit wet here. I'm working both in the fast drying and the slow drying, and I want you to be able to see a bit of what I'm working on today. So you'll have a view of like what's happening down here on my tray a bit, and you'll be able to see me. So I'm always trying new things. Every time I stream, I try something a little bit different. Today we're streaming just to YouTube. We're streaming content like community guidelines. I don't think allows nudity, even in art, even with age restrictions on YouTube. So we're here. So welcome. I mean on Twitch. So we're here on YouTube. Checking my reference photo. It's actually just a little bit bigger, but I can zoom. Okay. So we're gonna get some paint going here, and we're using this handheld palette. It is paper or tear off. It's nice for acrylics, what I've been using, and we're going to hit some paint. So we're going to be using some yellow ochre, Golden Brand. This is fast drying, so I'll put a little bit of retarder into it. I'm loving working with the slow drying acrylics, especially that Pyroil Red. I think it's a relatively new formulation from Golden. It's nice. So I'm using this stuff from Golden. It's an acrylic medium. It's called Retarder, and it slows down the drying process a bit. I talk about this like every time I stream about wanting to get a wet palette. Haven't done that yet. Maybe it's going to be at some point in my near future, because I have been talking about it a lot. Maybe I'll remember it sometime when I'm thinking about art supplies. Yesterday I varnished a painting. You can see it behind me, I think. Yeah, the one with the fox on it. The first coat of varnish is definitely going to need 2 coats, possibly 3. I might have to go and buy another container of varnish. It's soaking it up. Okay, so mixing that yellow ochre in with the retarder. Then I'm going to go for some Titan Buff. There's no such thing really in acrylic painting that I've found yet where I can mix up my paint one day and still have it last till the next day. So this is this ritual of having to mix up paint every time I paint. I want something kind of warm. I'm going with the Pyroil Red, so I'm going to stick with that instead of warming up with magenta. The Pyroil Red. It's going to do a little bit of that. This goes a really long way. I've been working big and I've been working small. I haven't been doing a lot of working in the middle size lately. That's okay with me. What do I want for darks? I'm going to use... Trying to decide if I want to use... I dropped a cap. Hello, cap. Hi, found you. Found my cap. Okay, I really love Payne's Gray for dark. And, maybe I will use that today. I'm going to hold off on the black. Use that in a different application later. I'm actually just going to hang it up on my paint board. and seek out my Payne's gray. There we go. Payne's gray. Payne's gray. Love it. It's probably my favorite color. This stuff is fast drying. Be on to a new tube. Hopefully soon I will get the slow drying stuff. Golden has this brand, this product name called Open. And there's a big, it's black. The tube is black. Like, not all black, but there's some black on it. And that paint dries much slower, and I love it for that reason, for especially working big. If I'm working small, it's not that as big of an issue. But when I want to come back to a color an hour after I've mixed it, it's a bit of a challenge with fast drying acrylics. And by fast drying, it's not like specifically formulated to be fast drying. It's just like regular drying speed. Okay, threw on some burnt umber. And we're going to roll, actually, no, I really want a little bit of chromium oxide green. Oh, okay. Chromium oxide green is coming up. Chromium oxide green. I throw on just a smidge of that. Then once I get it on my palette, then I mix some colors together so I have a lot to choose from. This is really the masculine energy that I'm applying to my painting. So I'm going to mix some colors up on my palette. What's the best way to show this? I was using a Polycam the other day, trying it out. I'm trying something different. Actually, my face cam today is my new Logitech on a stand. So I try something new every time I stream, and I will probably maybe for the first 100 times I stream until I get a system that I just absolutely love. And then even then, I still might like change things up just for the sake of changing things up. Mixing paint together. What I'm listening to is the new drop by Kesha, her new full album released yesterday. This Titan buff. Might want a little bit of white. I'm thinking about adding a little bit of white in here, so I'm going to show you a bit of the colors I'm working with. I have that red. I'll tap into that. I'll just tap in with my brush when I need some of it. And titanium white. Come here. We're going to do a little bit of titanium white. And I'm going to mix it with a bit of the Titan buff to create an even lighter light. I'm going to save the white for when I want to do final highlights. Okay, so Titan buff and titanium white mixing together, give myself a base color to look to. So now I have some options, especially these options in this brown area to choose from. I have green. So I'm setting myself up so I have a lot of different colors to choose from when I'm in the moment in painting. Trying just to get into that flow. I'm going to need to change up the music. This is into new territory for me, new songs. I like to listen to music that I already know, or music without lyrics when I paint. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Time to paint. What brush will we use? Start kind of big. I'm going to start with this number 6 flat from Princeton. 6 flat. And we're going to go from highlights. Okay, so I'm going to make a plan. So there's a shadow here. This color right here could continue up for this crease where the breast tissue meets into the armpit and shoulder here. This could be a little, this color here could find a color in between to blend that. I like this stripe of blue here. I might leave that. It's nice and messy. And there's the rib cages here. It goes from high to low to high to low to high to low. And that even continues a little bit into the back. A lot of yellow ochre here, and I want to get rid of the yellowness a little bit here in the shadows, but I think I'd rather have that be Titan Buff and Chromium Oxide Green mixture through here with a little bit of burnt umber. And then this part here on her body is fairly complicated with this angle, because we have the crust of the rib cage, this indentation where her concave, somehow she has a concave belly is, and then the crust of the rib cage on this side, the navel, the pelvis, and then working down into the pelvic region and the genitals. There's a lot going on. I'm going to start from left to right, moving this way because I'm right-handed. Start from here and work my way over left to right so that I'm not dragging my hand through wet paint. Okay. Get a sense of what's on my brush right now. I didn't clean my brushes super well last night. I was in a hurry. Okay, so I'm going to start with lights. And we'll work a little bit darker. Pulling out some of that yellow ochre is a goal, and replacing more with the Titan Buff and burnt umber. I didn't own burnt umber as a color when I did the first layer here. I own it now, so I have a lot more control here, a lot more options. It's a great purchase. I'm using a pretty full palette too. This is intentional. You'll see me do portraits, smaller portraits often, where my palette is very limited. All right, so we're going to start this rhythm here of low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high. And that's going to give us a sense of rib cage. Paint's feeling a little bit sticky. I'm just going to wet my brush with water. It's an easy fix. My water's really clean right now. Move to a clean jar. Okay, so I'm going to hit, while I have the highlight color on, I'm going to hit some areas that are highlight. This is the white mixed with Titan Buff that I'm using for the highlights. Can you see everything? Yep. Okay, great. So because I'm in the water, I'm using water to mix with. I run the risk of making my paint too thin. And it's okay for it to be a little thin, actually, if I wanted to, because I'm going over similar colors. But I want some body to this, so I'm going to be mixing up some more paint here in a second. I'll just burn through all of my highlight color. Not to worry, we have plenty of paints. There's an art store nearby, and I have a budget for paint, so I can just mix some more. Easy as that. Okay, there's a little bit left on my palette knife. I'm just going to pull the paint off my palette knife as I paint. I don't know how much of this blue mark I'm going to leave here. I want to leave it, and I'm finding that I'm painting over parts of it. And I'm opting for defining the structure instead of leaving it. We'll see what happens. Trying not to judge it. When I'm actually painting, I've got my paint mixed up, I have an idea, I've gone over the plan I'm going to do. At that point, I just lean into it. I'm like, okay, we're doing this. It's going to be fun. Or not. Just doing this. So breathing to stay connected to my creativity. Keeping that part of me alive and open. there is this highlight around where the nipple is. I moved the nipple from the reference photo intentionally to line up with my composition. Pressing the nipple is definitely a tool as an artist I can use for pointing in a certain direction. As ridiculous as that sounds, but like, yes, that's nipples point. So I want to blend this in the way you blend in acrylic, is you mix a color in between your two colors and then you paint over the edge. So I have this edge between this yellowish flesh tone and this whitish flesh tone, and I want to blend it, so I'm mixing a color in between and I'm painting over the line. Painting over the line. And if I want to do it again, if I want to blend it more, then I just go to slightly darker and I mix up a color in between the two. And I paint that over the line. If I go too much, no big deal. If I have a color that's not working for me, no big deal. I just change it. Here's where I'm going to get a tiny bit of the chromium oxide green and mix it in with my color. I want this to be just a little bit cool, and it's going to aid the, yeah, I love that. Okay, so I want a little bit cool. We're aiding the experience of pushing this back in space without just adding black or adding brown or adding something darker. What I want is it to seem further away. It's working. That's what matters. And I'm going to run a little bit of fairly straight, unmixed burnt umber, which is that brown color. I'm going to run that through around this edge. It's a little darker than I actually wanted. So I'm coming back and tinkering with it. All of this blending, I have found, is still easier to do in oil because it stays, even like mixing on the palette, it stays for longer. Stays wet, stays workable, stays malleable for longer. Okay, now up close, this looks like some stripes. From further away, it's going to start to blend into looking like a round and supple shape. Reasserting some of this white through here. Connecting these together so that they make sense visually. Just using water to thin today. I have other mediums that I sometimes use to thin, and I'm choosing to use water. We'll see how this turns out. Okay, through here, this is darker. I'm going to do a blending layer, a blending stripe. So my lighter gray color, not gray, my lighter tan color. It's all about tricking you. I am trying to trick you. I'm trying to trick you into thinking that this flat image is actually a three-dimensional human. And I might even be succeeding. For some reason, when I was painting this before, I wanted some red in here. And I guess I can kind of see why, but I'm mixing that out right now. Flavor of going cool with a little bit of chromium oxide through here. Maybe that's what I had at the time. I probably mixed up a brown using red and green because I didn't have burnt umber at the time. Okay, now we get into a little of the blue. And the blue, by blue I mean Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray mixed in with burnt umber for this darker dark through here. keep reminding myself I'm not working in oils. I have different tools available to me. I just noticed in me, I got a little scared, like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. This isn't great looking, like I'm messing something up. And then I breathed. I let that go, and then said, okay, I'm just painting. I'm just painting. When I lock down, when I'm not breathing well, I lose my connection. And I don't ever want to think about what I'm painting when I'm painting. I want to feel it. It's an emotional experience for me. I'm feeling my painting. I'm feeling into what's happening here. I'm just following along. My body's just following along with feeling. When I find myself thinking, if I find myself like with judgments, like, oh, this is bad, it usually means that I'm not breathing, I'm overthinking. Let go of the thinking, Jay. That's the message I tell to myself. Okay, all this yellow through here, just not feeling it. Let's get rid of it. I'm going to replace some of it in moss with well, let's just go with red colors. This green line, I'm going to do that thing where I paint over it, blending the line in between. Okay, pulling that yellow out as we go across. Looking at my reference photo, which you can see. Okay. That's feeling good, getting rid of that yellow. Ensure that I keep my blending going. So I'm working up by choosing colors that are in between colors, between. Can I just leave it at that? The betweens. So this is way too black here. I don't know what I was doing. Oh, I know what I was doing. I was moving this. I gave her a little bit more flesh. She was too thin. So I can cut back into this here. Some of that black, I only really just need that darkest dark on the edge. I was trying to solve it with my brain. I even remember. I was like, oh, I'm screwing this up. I'm overthinking it. And I was. I couldn't see it, but I can see it today. So I'm in flow today. It's effort. It takes time and effort to get to the point where I'm actually painting. I write for somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour every morning, 3 pages handwritten. And I meditate, and I do yoga. I do some different check-ins with people who are important to me in my life. And then I'll do some reading, whatever is most active in my life. Sometimes I'll do some admin related to the business side of art. And then after all of that, I'm ready. I'm prepared. Sometimes I'll eat a little food. I'm ready to come to the studio. So much of the way I make art has to do with preparation, being properly prepared, so that when I'm here, I'm clear. I'm not thinking about relationship drama. I'm not thinking about like other weirdness going on in my life. I'm not like being angry. I don't have feelings that I haven't processed. It's not like I'm like resentful or angry or overly joyful or happy about things. I'm just here. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible when I show up to the canvas. And that just doesn't happen. I just don't wake up feeling neutral. It takes effort. It takes intentionality of doing certain things and not doing certain other things. Been away from sugar for a while now. It's made a big impact on my art. My channels are cleaner. I may even like purify. That's been something I'm working on for like 6 months, is purifying my fuel sources. That's an area where I can grow. Eating junk food has a direct impact on my ability to channel. And yes, I just refer to me making art as channeling. It's channeling. I'm channeling my inner artist. Her name is Samantha. She is 14. She's super weird. She's super kinky. Super embarrassing. But that's her. Just coming to know and love her. She's my predominant personality from all my past lives put together. Samantha. She's ridiculous. And she just wants to come out and play. Okay. And she is. Alright, I want some gray. I don't know if I have the ability to mix gray with what's on my palette, but I'm going to try. Make something grayish. Using the Payne's gray. Okay, I'm getting something grayish. So as I move back, there's 3 layers here. There is this rib cage proper, closest on her right side. Then there's the belly. And then there's the arc of the rib cage, her left rib cage. And as we push back in each subsequent layer, I want it to be desaturated. To desaturate, it's gray. So I'm taking the color I would use, and then adding a little bit of this gray that I've mixed up. So I'm polishing something like right now. This color right here is the grayish color. Okay, let's see if this is right. I'm not sure if it's going to be. I might have to. There we go. Okay, well, it's definitely grayish. Where does the value lie? I'm going to throw some in here to get a feel for what it feels like. Go lighter for this crest. Rib cage, lighter still. Doing pretty good. Lighter still, lighter still. Okay, I think that's going to pull off the illusion of 3 planes. So 1, 1, 2, 3. Colors closer to us will be more saturated. This is a bit of a darker through there. Dab, just a dab of the green with this middle tan. So let's see what this looks like. I mean, you see that brown line I put there. That was intentionally thick, so I didn't want to grab a smaller brush. It's just what I can make with the brush I had. Then I come in and I cut into it, cut it in half. Just leave half of it that I want. Okay. Just right through here. So I'm going to saturate it more saturation. So I'm adding more color to my brush. It's Titan Buff and Yellow Ochre and Burnt Umber. And I'm noticing where there's still spots that are particularly yellow. where there's a lot of yellow ochre left from that first pass, and just noting to myself, okay, those are spots for me to write over. Grabbing a second brush because I want to do highlights while I'm going through. There's a highlight here around her navel. A raised part of the flesh next to indentation where the ridge of the navel is. So a little bit of light next to dark is going to do a lot, especially from a distance. I'm going to visually connect that ridge. Okay. As we're moving along, noticing I still have a lot of that yellow ochre, so filling that in more with the flesh tones we're playing with. And I'm going to lighten this up, so I'm tapping into the pink for the first time. I just had a little tiny dab of it, and you can see how quickly it got pink. I'm going to have to pull out my palette knife and separate that. So I might need that, but I'm going to pull off that chunk of paint. Just put in like a tenth of it back in, quarter of it back in, and then mix it with, okay, so this is something I do sometimes. As I start to run out of some colors on my palette, I try and substitute with whatever's available. And that gets pretty dangerous pretty fast, because I end up using a color that I don't want, just because the one that I do want isn't something that I can see. It's like, oh, I don't see it right now, so it must not be there, it must not exist. My brain, my inner artist, Samantha in there, she's so quick to just like impatient and be like, ah, it's not there, I'm just going to use whatever color I have. And then I end up like, which is great sometimes, because the painting will be like, oh, that's fun, happy accident type of thing. And sometimes it's like, not so much. Not so much what we wanted there. Let's just stick to the plan. It's this balance of, like sticking to the plan, air quotes, sticking to the plan and being expressive. We need a little bit of both. It's a balance. Balance of masculine and feminine energies. Oh, sorry about that. It's drafty in here. It's winter outside. The stuff going on in my nose. Okay. I just had a memory. My mom signed me up for a college photography class when I was younger. And that was super cool. I forgot she supported me in that way. I should thank her for that next time I see her. That was a good experience. I still have memories of it. Vague memories, but memories nonetheless. I'm going to put some more Titan Buff on my palette. Okay. This rib cage here, the indication of the rib cage, just too much. It's too dark. I'm going to push it back. Bring it forward. Push back the dark, bring forward the light. By going lighter over the top of it. That's better. It's really nice advantage. I can just look over at the monitor and I can see what it looks like through the screen, and that's nice. I'm gonna walk away too. Look at it from a distance. That's okay. not in love with some things that are going on here along this edge. Just a little bit of blending, a little more blending of her rib cage across her torso, her side here. The color changes just happening a little too quickly, a little too extreme. Color changes are just a little bit too extreme, so I'm changing them up a little bit. Just, yep, a little less extreme. And that is exactly what is needed here. Just a little bit more easeful exchange between, and so just blending between the layers. Just these striations, blending as we go across, mixing on the palette, getting colors, the in-between color, and then painting it over the line. Just continuing to do that, even where spots where it's changing very quickly, like from here to here, just find that color, find the color in between, which I'm doing. Finding an in-between color, it doesn't have to be the perfect in-between color, just a color that's in between. And then paint in between. That's an in-between color. And have the brush go in the direction of the form. I want that to be a little bit darker. So add in a bit more of the burnt umber. That's even better. So just find like those colors in between as it comes around. And round, right? It's a round form. Making it round, coming around, following the form as it goes around. Okay. That's pretty good. We kind of like made our way across. Things are happening. Sometimes, when something looks like it's 3 shades too dark, it's exactly where it should be. And I'm having a thought that this line here is 3 shades too dark. So chances are that it is exactly where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to leave it for now and look at it when I have more perspective. I've let go of the idea that it should be a certain way. I'm even going to add to it a little bit and make it more dramatic. So there, take that over dramatic line. Or even more dramatic now. More dramatic of a shift. All right, and use a smaller brush to define some of the more detailed, the plane changes in structure through the rib cage. This feels good. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to get a drink of water. I'm going to do some thinking, a little bit of moving before I come through and work on the pelvic region. Getting her pelvis, her genitals worked out. Salving. Just add in some line here, some indicators of some hard edges that we're going to be playing with here. Scooting back a bit. Might change the camera angle here. There's a bit of a hard line that comes across. Oh, what to do there? Break's coming. And I'm going to take my palette, I'm going to drip just some water in some different spots, increase the humidity of it. Oh, I should get one of those spray bottles. I want one of those spray bottles. I could just spray it with water. I missed. I'll order one. Okay. Leave my brushes in the water, take a little break. Pop my mic off. Turn on the charger. All right, a little bit of break. Recording.